Hello and welcome. You're watching To The Point. Mufti Muhammad Saeed's death has created an unexpected and worrying vacuum in Kashmir. His daughter, Anna Mehbooba, has so far refused to be sworn in as Chief Minister, and as a result, Governor's rule has been declared. As of now, no one knows how long this could last, but Kashmir is a sensitive state where many believe militancy is slowly but steadily rising. So is this pause in governance understandable or irresponsible? Meanwhile, there are reports that Congress is trying to lure Mehbooba Mufti and that the BJP is worried. There are also reports that Mehbooba has set conditions which the BJP could find difficult to accept. So tonight we focus on the political situation in Kashmir. In part 2, I shall talk to 3 leading experts about the developing situation. But first, an interview with the leader of the opposition and the working president of the National Conference, former Chief Minister Omar Abdullah. Omar Abdullah, let me start with the political situation following the sudden death of Mufti Muhammad Saeed. Just 10 months after the BJP and PDP formed a government with 53 out of 87 seats in the assembly, the state is without an elected government and governor's rule has been imposed. In these circumstances, is this understandable or unfortunate?
Well, I think it's a combination of both understandable and unfortunate. I think I can understand Mehbooba Mufti's reluctance in the face of what is clearly overwhelming grief at the demise of her father. But I think it's also unfortunate that that grief has led to a situation where we have no government, so to speak, and governor's rule has been imposed.
In fact, the truth is, this is not the first time in India that the child of a sitting chief minister is supposed to succeed a chief minister who's died. That happened in 1982 when your father succeeded your grandfather Sheikh Abdullah. Nationally, it happened in 1984 when Rajiv Gandhi succeeded Indira Gandhi. In this case, however, Mehbooba Mufti has chosen to first postpone the swearing in for what one thought were the 4 days of traditional mourning. Now that that mourning is over, it seems she may not be sworn in for another week or even 10 days. What do you make of this delay that seems to be expanding rather than contracting?
See, I have no reason to assume anything other than the fact that this is a byproduct of the grief that she's coming to terms with. Yes, it's true. We've had transitions of leadership at the state level or at the central level, but those have been much smoother and much swifter. In this case, Mehbooba, for reasons best known to her, has opted not to follow the advice of her party and has stayed away from government formation. Look, I know that the state government, as it is, ceased to exist with the demise of Mufti Muhammad Saeed Sahab, but the alliance didn't. As far as I understand, it was an alliance between the PDP and the BJP, not an alliance between individuals that would have ceased to exist with the demise of Mufti Muhammad Saeed Sahab. So the alliance is still in place. The terms and conditions that were negotiated for that alliance to be formed are also in place. It's only that you have a reluctant head who is unwilling at this point to come forward and take oath of office.
So are you suggesting that the more appropriate course of action, if Mehbooba Mufti herself is reluctant for personal or emotional reasons to step in immediately, was to appoint a caretaker chief minister from the alliance so that the elected government could continue?
Well, given that, as I said, there has been no indication to the contrary as to the continuance of the alliance. Look, a lot of people are fishing in troubled waters. Your introduction suggested as much. There are any number of rumors doing the rounds here, including a rumor that I'm supposed to have met the Prime Minister in Delhi before I flew back to Srinagar yesterday, which is totally untrue. So in a situation like this, where there is clearly a political vacuum and a whole load of uncertainty, there will be any number of people who will try and fish in troubled waters for various reasons, whether from within the PDP, whether from within the alliance partner, the BJP, or, as you suggested, from certain quarters within the Congress party as well, none of which is healthy for Jammu and Kashmir. This uncertainty does not, I mean, no state will benefit from an atmosphere of uncertainty. Least of all, Jammu and Kashmir. Case in point being, you have an encounter that is going on, that is raging right now on the outskirts of Srinagar city, in which one militant is reportedly dead in this encounter, and another one has been trapped. Now look, these are situations that can emerge at any time. Law and order situations can develop as a result of these anti-militancy operations. You need a government and an accountable government in place that can deal with situations like this.
In other words, you're saying that the absence of an elected accountable government is giving an unnecessary advantage to militancy, which anyway has been on the rise in Jammu and Kashmir for the last year or so. That in other words, the absence of an elected government is particularly unfortunate given the prevailing circumstances of the moment.
It just makes decision making that much more complicated. I mean, even the governor, now understand the governor's predicament. He has no idea whether he's going to be governing for a day, a week, or a month. So at the moment, he's pretty much just occupying a position without affecting any major decisions. This is also the last quarter of the financial year. Planning releases have to be made. A budget has to be finalized and passed before the end of the financial year. There are a whole host of regular governance-related issues, independent of the security and law and order situation that the state finds itself in.
So does this mean that actually governance is at a standstill and that critical decisions that should be taken are not being taken?
Well, absolutely. I think the governor has instructed the chief secretary that no changes are to be affected. And I think regular day-to-day decisions will be taken, but nothing beyond that.
Which means the state will lose out then, won't it?
Well, at the moment, we don't have a government, so to speak. So yes, there is nothing that will happen for the time being.
One more question about Mehbooba.
Look, I fully understand and I sympathize. No, I fully understand and I sympathize with the predicament that Mehbooba finds herself in. I can't imagine a worse set of circumstances under which she might have to take over. But unfortunately, I mean, man proposes and God disposes. She hasn't got to choose the circumstances under which this transition is to take place.
Except that the circumstances are fairly similar to the ones that prevailed in 1982 when your grandfather died and your father took over. And if I recall correctly, he took over within hours.
That's true, he did. He took over within hours of my grandfather passing away. If you look at the case of Rajiv Gandhi, he took over before Indira Gandhi's body had been removed from the hospital to be laid in state and then cremated.
One of the criticisms about what's happening at the moment is some people say Mehbooba Mufti is allowing her personal grief to take precedence over the constitutional requirements of either governance or administration. Is that criticism a bit harsh, or is it grounded in an undeniable truth?
Well, while there is an element of truth to that, I think it would be unfair to sort of criticize Mehbooba for what is clearly, I mean, an undeniable sense of deep grief. So, I mean, I can understand where she's coming from.
Let's broaden our discussion, because politics, much like nature, abhors a vacuum, and there is intense speculation, particularly in Srinagar, but it's now caught on in Delhi as well, whether the PDP-BJP alliance will continue. This morning, Muzaffar Hussain Beg was quoted by First Post to say the following: his, meaning Mufti's passing away, has provided us an opportunity to make a fresh start. What's your hunch? Will this alliance continue? Is this just speculation? Or is there something more happening under the surface that could either break the alliance or alter its shape and form from what it's been?
Look, as I said right in the beginning, this was an alliance between political parties and not individuals. And therefore, the fact that Mufti Muhammad Sayyid Sahab is no more should not in fact impact the alliance between the PDP and the BJP. Let's also understand that Mehbooba Mufti was and continues to remain the president of the PDP, and therefore was a willing participant in the negotiations and the structuring of the alliance that led to Mufti Muhammad Sayyid Sahab taking over as Chief Minister. Therefore, I mean, for Muzaffar Beg to suggest that this is now an opportunity to make new beginnings would be to suggest that what Mufti Muhammad Sayyid did was wrong, and that somewhere Mufti Muhammad Sayyid Sahab erred or was mistaken in tying up with the BJP. Now, if that is something that Mehbooba and her party are willing to accept, then by all means go ahead.
What you're saying is that any attempt to change the nature, shape and form of the alliance at this point after Mufti Sahab's death would be like suggesting that Mufti Sahab got it wrong, and this is therefore an opportunity to correct the lapses or mistakes he made. This would therefore be a reflection on him rather than on the alliance.
Oh, absolutely it would be. I would be the first person to arrive at the conclusion that if any changes are affected or any fresh negotiations take place, then clearly Mufti Muhammad Sayyid Sahab got it wrong. And that will be his lasting legacy, that his own party and his successors have basically poo-pooed everything that he did in the last year of his life, so to speak.
But the truth of the matter is that although it was never said publicly, most people are aware that Mehbooba Mufti had serious reservations about the alliance and greater qualms about the way in which it had worked in the last 10 months than her father.
I wouldn't be able to hazard a guess on that. It's very easy to sort of speak on the basis of hearsay. But as I said, I mean, Mehbooba is the president of the PDP. She was a willing partner in this alliance. She was the one who met the BJP president Amit Shah when the negotiations were concluded. She was very much part of the swearing-in ceremony. She was very much part of the Prime Minister's mega announcement of the 80,000 crore package in Srinagar. So nothing publicly would suggest that she was anything but in favor of this arrangement or relationship.
Now, there are also reports that she wants assurances from the BJP on 3 or 4 specific counts before she agrees to step in as become Chief Minister. Apparently, she wants an assurance that issues like Article 370B for the state flag won't be raised as controversies. She wants an assurance that she will serve the full remaining term as Chief Minister and there's no talk of a rotation of the job. She even possibly, by some accounts, wants the Deputy Chief Ministership to be done away. Is it wise to seek such assurances at this moment when the actual governance of the state is at stake?
I think the only assurances she should seek are that the agenda for alliance that the BJP and the PDP negotiated, on which she and her father signed off, and the government came into place, will be followed in letter and spirit. I think any further negotiation will then open the doors to the BJP to try and negotiate. Please understand, this is not Mufti Sayyid who's taking over. It's an untried and untested Mehbooba Mufti. And therefore, if she were to reopen what was otherwise a closed chapter, what stops them from reopening it? And then anything is possible.
How do you respond to the view that by being reluctant and by delaying taking over, she's actually strengthening her hand vis-a-vis the BJP? Because many people believe this is creating tension and consternation within the BJP, who far more than her don't want the alliance to break.
That, I think, would be a question that the BJP would have to answer. I, again, would sort of go back to what I tweeted yesterday. I don't believe, at least up until yesterday or this morning, that what Mehbooba is doing is anything but a byproduct of extreme grief. I don't believe that the person I saw weeping by her father's graveside yesterday morning would be the same person who would come back home, lock herself up in a room and start calculating the next chess move that she wants to make on this political chessboard. I mean, either she's an absolute phenomenal actress, which I don't believe to be true, or then what you're seeing is not political gamesmanship or brinkmanship, but is actually the byproduct of extreme grief.
People say that the great virtue of the BJP-PDP alliance is that it politically unites Jammu and the Valley, which voted not just differently but almost in polar opposite directions at the last state elections. And if that alliance breaks up, nothing that could take its place could bridge the state in the same way. Would you accept that that is a good reason for maintaining the alliance for the next 4 or 5 years?
Well, I think the best reason for maintaining the alliance at the moment is for the two constituents of the alliance to pay respect to the architect of that alliance. I mean, Mufti Muhammad Sayyid was the architect of what he called the coming together of the North Pole and the South Pole. So if you want to pay respect and regard to the late leader, the best way to do that is to continue what was his last legacy.
In other words, any attempt to change the shape and form would be disrespect to Mufti Saab's last legacy.
Any effort to change the shape, size or form of what Mufti Sayyid was leading would be to admit that Mufti Sayyid was wrong, and that will be his lasting legacy, not anything else.
Finally, many people have interpreted Sonia Gandhi's gesture of visiting Srinagar and personally meeting Mehbooba Mufti as possibly part of a political strategy to lure Mehbooba Mufti. How do you, A, view that possibility, and B, can it succeed?
You know, from what little I know of Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, I think politics and the possibility of breaking up the PDP-BJP alliance would have been the last thing on her mind when she came to Srinagar. I think that it's no secret that Mrs. Gandhi and Mehbooba developed a very close working relationship when the PDP and the Congress were in alliance. Also, Mrs. Gandhi is aware of the long history that Mufti Saab had as a member of the Congress party, working with her late husband, her late mother-in-law, and other senior members of the Congress. I think her visit to Srinagar was purely a reflection of that. There are, I believe, lower-level functionaries in the Congress that would like to have you believe that this was more political than a humanitarian gesture, but I don't believe there was even an iota of politics in Mrs. Gandhi's intentions.
And that argument probably would be reinforced by the fact that even if the two were to get together, they only have between them 40 seats, which is short of a majority. And they'd either have to rely on independents and others, and that would still be a very weak government, or they might have to look to you and your 15 MLAs for support. Would you be willing to support them from outside? I know you can't join them from the inside because Mehbooba is your great rival, but would you support them from the outside as perhaps a return favor for the fact that Congress kept you in power for 6 years?
You know, I had made an offer of support to Mufti Saab and the PDP in the immediate aftermath of the assembly elections about 12 months ago. That offer of support was turned down by the PDP on the basis of certain sort of a reading of the situation. The way I see it, that situation hasn't changed, and therefore the logic or the reasoning that led to Mufti Saab turning down our offer stands true today as well. So I don't see why I should be making any fresh approaches to the PDP for any sort of understanding or working relationship as such. If there is a change of thinking within the PDP, then it's for them to reflect that, not for me.
In other words, if they want your support, they have to knock on your door. You're not going to offer it unilaterally a second time.
The National Conference has been voted into the opposition. It's a role we've carried out for the last 1 year. It's a role we're happy to carry out for the life of this assembly.
Suppose Mrs. Sonia Gandhi were to say to you, Omar, support us from outside, make sure that an alternative is given to the state other than the BJP, PDP. Would you heed Mrs. Gandhi's request?
No, I think we're getting into the realm of the hypothetical right now. Nothing that I have seen or heard would suggest to me that Mrs. Gandhi will be making any such approach. I don't believe that even she would want to capitalize on the misfortune or the grief that Mehbooba and her party find themselves in right now. So I'd be very surprised. In fact, I'd be downright amazed if I was to receive a phone call of the sort that you've just outlined.
Yes, but you're still not saying you're going to say no if you get that call.
You know, gone are the days when I gave categorical answers to hypothetical questions.
You've answered it for me. You've left open the smallest window of possibility to intrigue everyone, as we sign off. My thanks to you, Omar Abdullah, for agreeing to talk to us and for being so open and candid.